André is on a 9-fight win streak. He's a good wrestler, with 65% of his wins by submission. Different kinds of chokes provided. I mean, he loves an armbar, an arm triangle, a guillotine choke, a triangle choke. Tell me about it, he's done it. Having 15 submissions in his whole career is no joke. In the UFC, he's on a 5-fight win streak and is tearing down everyone that comes in his way. Considering 5 of his UFC fights, he's won 2 by decision and 3 by submissions, with all the submissions coming in the first round. If he doesn't take you out in the first round, he's probably just gonna win by decision. In his last 4 fights, he's won 3 by the armbar, so you gotta beware that he's always ready for an armbar. You do not want to be on the ground against this man. Considering his losses, all losses happen to come by TKO knockout. He has never been submitted and plans on never being submitted. He has never lost in the UFC, and his last loss was about 10 fights ago. So trust me, he's forgotten all about it. Most of his losses come by punches or while standing on the feet. So I would say if you want to beat him, you gotta beat him striking. His last fight was against Uriah Hall, where he won by unanimous decision. He had a 40% takedown success rate and gave 4 more strikes than he absorbed. It was a dominant performance and had to take down each round. Although he gave 4 more strikes than his opponent, only 17% of those strikes were significant. So he might not be the most efficient, but he surely is the more productive fighter in the fight. Brendan All-In Allen is currently on a 3-fight win streak in the UFC. He's a pretty good wrestler, with 50% of his wins in the UFC by submission. He has won 8 of his last 10 fights in the UFC. And although I wouldn't say he's shown his striking ability too much in the UFC, you just need to look at his LFA career to know that this boy can bang. Of his last 3 fights that he won 2 by the rear naked choke. So although André loves an armbar, Brandon loves the choke. Let's look at his losses. In the UFC, he has only lost by knockout, both happening in the second round. You can say maybe the second round is not always in his favor. He has only lost once by submission in his whole career, and even that loss was in his 3rd MMA fight. Remember, he's had 22 ever since and never lost by submission in all, which shows he's learned his lessons. From looking at his losses, I noticed he puts it all in his fights and usually comes short due to timing. His last fight was against Jocko, which he won by a first round submission. It's funny because he threw half the strikes that he absorbed, but had a 100% takedown success rate, which led to his win in this fight. In fact, he won Performance of the Night, and I have to say, you gotta watch it because it was a pretty impressive display. And although he threw half as many strikes than he received, I have to say, both fighters threw the same amount of significant strikes, which shows his efficiency in the fight. When comparing André and Brendan, we start off by looking at their records, with André coming in 23-4-0 and Brendan 25-0. We have to see that André is the more experienced fighter, and his last loss was a longer time ago than Brendan. Although Brendan is more experienced in the UFC, as Brendan has had 10 UFC fights with a record of 8-2, whereas André has 5, coming in 5-0. According to their UFC stats, André has a takedown defense rate of 45%, whereas Brendan has 50%, which is pretty similar. And their takedown accuracies are also similar, with André having 40% and Brendan 44%. From the stats, you would think this is going to be a fight between 2 good wrestlers, one to watch, and I would say might just be the fight of the night. What do you think is going to happen in this fight? Who do you got winning? Let me know in the comments what to look out for.